Okay, guys, Coach will open with a comment here, and then we'll get to your questions. Use the raise your hand function. Coach, go ahead.
Well, I think, one of the big goals in spring practice is, to establish, some of the intangible things that are really important, I think, to having a successful team. Um, the work ethic with the players has been good in the off season. The work ethic in the practices so far has been good. All right, but also developing a kind of discipline, on your team, whether it's self-discipline, individuals making good choices and decisions about what they do and what they don't do, because I think that's important to being able to play with discipline on the field, because you're a disciplined person. You're a disciplined person when you get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. You make good choices and decisions as a person, as a student, and as a player, and it becomes a part of who you are. So I think that's something that we continue to work on with our players. We have a lot of really good people on our team. I think leadership is something that we continue to work on with our team. But, sometimes leadership, sort of comes to the top, when it's needed. And I think that the time that leadership really shows itself on a team is when the coaches aren't always involved, and that usually happens in the summer. So we'll kind of see how that develops when the time comes. But the last three practices we've had since I talked to you have all been in pads. And I think we've been able to work a lot on fundamentals, which I think has, come along very nicely. And I'm not satisfied with the progress that we made as a team, but I think what will really be interesting in the first scrimmage is, and because we have so many young players here, basically all the freshmen that we had last year, plus the 15 new guys that we have, that came in as mid-year. So we have a lot of really young players on the team, so it'll be interesting to see how they do in the scrimmage on Saturday when there's no coach standing on the field telling them what to do. All right, which I've talked about this before. It's important that guys have enough confidence, not only in what they're supposed to do, but how they're supposed to do it and why it's important to do it that way. So we'll keep working on that, and Thursday's practice will be a lot of situational stuff that we'll want to practice in a scrimmage, whether it's, 2-minute. We did goal line today. We did short yardage the last practice. We'll do things like coming out, things like that, that we just want to make sure we hit those situations as we go. We've been able to continue to make progress in the kicking game. I'm pleased with the way the players have gone about what they're doing to try to improve. We're not satisfied with where we are, so we want to continue to work hard to get better.
Okay, Coach, we'll start with Charlie Potter. Charlie, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, just wanted to ask you about the cornerback position. Just what have you seen from that group so far? And you mentioned the young guys, just how those guys have developed.
Well, I think everybody's made a lot of improvement. Bryce has made a lot of improvement. I think he's a lot more confident. I think I've talked about this before, that we wanted to play Bryce a lot more than he got to play last year. I think the situation, the circumstances, playing 10 SEC games, and being in the playoffs, probably didn't get an SEC championship game in the playoffs, didn't get as much chance to do that as we've done in the past with, developing quarterbacks. But I think just having all the reps that he had last year, he's much more confident. I think he's doing very well. Paul has made a tremendous amount of improvement. I think Jalen has a lot of upside. Right now we got to work on his fundamentals and his technique, but he's really got a lot of ability, and we're going to try to continue to work with him to develop and, see if he can have a role on the team. So, all the guys have made progress, and it'll be interesting to see how they respond, in the scrimmage as well.
We'll go to Michael Casagrande.
Yeah, you mentioned the younger guys heading into the scrimmage. Is that something you can see in practices where you can kind of tell who's going to be able to perform well in a scrimmage, or is it something that when you get there, it can be kind of a roll of the dice?
Well, I think that you have a good idea. Sometimes you get surprised both ways. Guys that do well in practice, and you think they got it, they get in the scrimmage and just completely go, sort of rat trap on you. And then there's other guys that, didn't practice all that great, and you're really questioning whether they know what to do. And when they get in a competitive situation, they actually do better. That's something that you cannot always judge, how a guy is going to do when he gets in a competitive situation. Some guys get anxious and, they get frustrated easily, and it affects their performance. And other guys are, they welcome the challenge, and they're not bothered by good, bad, or indifferent, and they just keep playing the next play, and they actually do better. So, but for the most part, I think you kind of know who's ready and who's not.
Okay, we'll go to Aaron Suttles.
When you have players that come from a great high school program or played for a great high school coach, as young players, what are signs that you see that sort of reveal that?
Uh, I think most of those guys know what it takes to win because they've been in winning programs. So they understand process. They understand, the things that they have to do day in and day out to be successful. Guys that have a lot of talent and ability but really didn't play in good programs, and had success just because they were better than everybody else. I think it's a work in progress sometimes to get them to understand that doing things the right way, that they're not going to necessarily have the same success against the level of competition now that they had when they were in high school if they don't do things correctly. But sometimes it's a little harder to convince them, and because they don't really have any experience in that. But when guys come from good programs, they usually know what it takes from a work ethic standpoint, from an intangible standpoint, discipline, toughness, being responsible to do their job, finishing plays, giving effort, a lot of those kind of things. They know what it takes because that's what they grew up with, and that's what they're used to doing.
We'll go to Tony.
You've talked in the past about, the wide receiver position being kind of like a basketball team. Do you find that you have that balance a lot more this season after bringing in two big guys? It seems like you have kind of more balance in the size of your receivers.
But I wouldn't trade the guys that we've lost the last 2 years for anybody. Probably all of them first-round draft picks. So I don't know that anybody that's here right now has earned the right to be a first-round draft pick. Maybe Jonathan Mechie, and he's not really practicing this spring, so I'm not really counting him. So these guys all got to prove themselves, and I think speed kills on the football field and on the highway. So I love to have speed guys. We have some big guys, but we got to get some speed guys too.
Okay, we'll wrap up with two follow-ups, Charlie and then Michael.
Yeah, Coach, just the corners, just what have you seen from them so far, and have those young guys there come along?
Well, Josh is, knows what he's doing. He's confident doing what he's, supposed to do. Jalen Armour-Davis has done a nice job so far. Marcus Banks has done a pretty good job. He's had a little bit of a calf problem, so he's a little bit been in and out, but when he plays and he's been able to practice, he's done a nice job. Kool-Aid is picking things up and, seems to be coming along. So, kind of anxious to see how those guys do when the fur flies too.
Okay, we'll wrap up with Michael.
Yeah, I know you're a basketball guy. Just wondered how much you got to watch this Alabama basketball team and what stood out about the transformation of the program and the culture surrounding it.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, what I admire the most about our basketball team this year, and I think I've mentioned it before, is the way they competed, how hard they played, and how they came back in games. They won some really close games, tough games, really good mental toughness. I mean, to come back in a game like they came back in the other day, we just seemed a little out of sorts, in the game the other day, which I don't really know why. Yeah, but, the guys played hard, they competed hard, and I really have a tremendous amount of respect for that. And I think, the culture of that program, because of what, Coach Oates has done, really had, shine through this year in the way that team played, the way they improved, the way they competed, the way they played together. And I think all those things are critical factors in having a successful program. And I think, that's what a lot of players want to be involved in too. So hopefully that'll help us in recruiting to get some really good players for the future. I know we got some good young players on our team and to complement them. And, but I was really, really proud of, the way our basketball team played. And, it's just like when we lost, in the end, sometimes you never want to waste a failing. And then you want to go to work on what you have to do to improve. But, but you also have to understand what you accomplished as a team and what you established as a team in terms of the success that you had. And I think this team was something that everybody was very, very proud of the way they competed all year long.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.